Yo, hey guys, it's poppin'. Jacques Slade here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is doing well. We're in a very crazy time right now, and I do hope that everyone is finding their way through it. So let's get this started. The folks over at Nike, they announced some new shoes today, and they are the strangest, weirdest, and I would say craziest shoes that I have seen in a very long time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. They come from Nike's ISPA division, which stands for improvise, scavenge, protect, and adapt. They're not exactly Nike sportswear, and they're not exactly like performance footwear. They're somewhere in the middle with a little bit of sustainability kind of thrown in. And if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I kind of like it. So for those of you that follow this channel closely, you know that I've actually covered the ISPA brand here before. In particular, it was with this shoe. This is the 270 Air Max ISPA. You see right there, it has the ISPA right there. I've actually taken these hiking, I've taken these on top of mountains, and to me, the ISPA represents I would say a venture away from the traditional look of sneakers. They mix urban and city with a little bit of trail, and they've really taken that up an entirely new level when it comes to the new product that they offered. And it's actually pretty exciting if that's what you want. A lot of times within the sneaker industry, you often hear people say they want more or they want something new, and this brand, the ISPA brand within Nike, represents that, doing things outside of the box and not following the norm. And hopefully some of these ideas actually make it into footwear down the line. So let's start with, I would say, my second favorite shoe that came out of this announcement. So this is the Nike ISPA Overreact, and as you can see, it looks very similar to a slip-on sort of shoe, but when you really look at the details, that's where you really see the shoe come together and you see what defines it as an ISPA shoe versus a regular shoe that Nike would make in their inline products. So let's start with the outsole, where you have what they call Overreact. Now this is the same sort of React foam that we've used before, that you get in like the React 87, or in one of my favorite, like the React Flyknit, which is one of the shoes that I run in. But in this case, they've overextended the React, so you get it on the outside of the shoe, and they want you to experience it in its raw form. And so there's no strobe board inside of these shoes, which is the part that they usually use to sew the shoe onto, and there's no sock liner as well. So you're literally placing your foot right on top of the React, so you get the sensation of the React foam immediately as soon as you put your foot inside of the shoe, which for me is very interesting and something I definitely want to try when they actually do release these later this month. Then when you move on to the upper, you see that they're using Flyknit, which is not necessarily something that is new for Nike. Flyknit has been around for a very long time, but it's the implementation of the Flyknit that makes this one a little different. Instead of using new yarn or creating a very specific pattern for the Flyknit on this upper of the Overreact, they're actually using scraps. As most of you guys know, the Space Hippie is another shoe that employs this sort of idea of using scraps to create something new. And with ISPA, this is their angle of sustainability. They're literally taking that improvise and scavenge portion of the ISPA and creating something new that uses old stuff, the React, old stuff, the Flyknit, but using it and manufacturing it in a different way to create a new silhouette. Next up is the Overreact Sandal, and similar to the Overreact, I think this is, again, using that improvise and scavenge sort of philosophy to inform the design. This is what I would consider like the open trail sneaker. So if you're gonna go on a trail and you're taking it easy, this is the sandal that you would wear. You still have that Overreact outsole that's going to give you the cushioning that you need for the whole day, but then they've added this extra traction pattern to give it, I would say, a trail-like feel. This obviously isn't a trail shoe. It's not made for like trail running or anything like that, but that's where they get the ideas from. That's what they improvised from. You see that the upper has a bunch of different straps placed in different positions, so you still get that airflow. So the shoe can still lock you down, but you don't have to worry about your feet getting hot. So if you're that sort of suburbanite or urbanite that wants to wear sandals and wear it in a way that seems cool and outside the norm, then this is what you would get. Again, very different, very much more in the ISPA sort of philosophy and way of thinking of things, but I actually kind of like it. Another shoe for me within the announcement today that really stood out was the ISPA Flow. The concept of this shoe revolves around the thought of gram shavers. If you never heard of gram shavers, basically they're these extreme athletes that take their equipment and they shave off as much weight as possible that will still allow them to do their job, but again, lowering the weight. So in essence, it's a way to make their equipment more and more efficient, but still maintain so they can perform at the highest level possible. And with the Flow, Nike has sort of taken that philosophy and crammed it all together into one shoe. Of all the shoes that we see on the list, this one probably looks like the most traditional of all of them. And it almost kind of looks like a basketball shoe that's been blended with a running shoe. You have that heel tab there that kind of pops out that gives the running shoe vibes for me. But the very interesting thing about this shoe is that they've actually perforated the outsole to allow air to flow in from the bottom of the shoe, which is not something that you see very often. And again, this goes to the concept of it's not exactly lifestyle, but it's not exactly performance either. It sits somewhere in the middle. It's very experimental in a sense to me, and that's really what is the most exciting thing about it. The upper is made out of this weave mesh that's super breathable. So in a sense, this shoe is going to keep your feet cool. And if you're an extreme athlete, that's obviously very important. You don't want your feet to get hot. If you're walking around all day or if you're on your feet all day, this shoe is there to provide you with the airflow and the breathability that you need in order to keep your feet cool. It's a very interesting way to look at it, but I actually really like how it all makes sense when you put all of the ideas together. When it comes to being unique and interesting, there is really one shoe inside of the ISPA that takes that crown hands down, and it is the Drifter. This shoe has Japanese inspirations. It's inspired by the Japanese work boot, but it also still kind of feels a little bit like the Air Raid from the profile. It's a very interesting sort of design. It has the split toe tabby sort of feel to it, and that added to it really just makes for one of the most unique and again interesting shoes that are part of this ISPA collection. On the tech side, they've actually did a regrind of Nike Zoom X, which is Nike's fastest foam, hands down. It really feels great in some of their running shoes, and they've incorporated here into this shoe, which is really almost a work boot but with a split toe, which is a very interesting way to look at it. It's a boot, it's a sneaker, but it's also has Zoom X for comfort. It's so all together, it's really this amalgamation of things to make a silhouette for a very specific demographic. They've thought about lockdown, so it has a very specific webbing at the toe and at the heel and at the midfoot to keep you locked inside of the shoe. And again, it has Zoom X for responsiveness. It's Nike's most responsive foam that they have, and they've added a regrind version of that into the shoe. So with that, you get this mixture of performance, you get this mixture of utility, and you get this mixture of nostalgia and this mixture of style all put together under one roof. And last but not least is hands down my favorite of the ISPA announcement. It is the Road Warrior. Now, this shoe mixes everything you could possibly think of, but in the coolest way possible, at least in my mind. It mixes basketball, it mixes outdoor, it mixes running, it mixes lifestyle, it mixes nostalgia. It's literally like the perfect mix of everything in my mind. So the shoe, as you can see, does not look like your normal shoe or what we expect from normal shoes. If we start just with the outsole, you see it has that double stacked zoom, which is something that is becoming more and more common with Nike. And honestly, I'm here for it. But then you also get that sort of like plank there at the rear with that open space, which reminds me of the Nike Shocks from back in the day with Vince Carter, who just retired. Shout out to Vince Carter, one of the greatest basketball players of our generation. So instead of the actual springs in the shocks, that's where they're using the double stack zoom, which I imagine adds a totally different sensation than what we're used to. Like, this is taking all those design philosophies and combining them together in a package that for me is super exciting and something that I definitely want to rock. When you move to the upper of the shoe, you see that they're using this sort of breathable mesh material to give the shoe the form that it needs. But then at the toe, you see they're going back to the split toe design that we actually saw on the Drifter. So the Japanese influence on the look and feel of the shoe is there as well. Now, the one thing about this shoe though is it is the most expensive out of the entire ISPA line. This one is going to cost $500 and it's going to release on July 10th. Again, it's my favorite. I'm going to try my best to get my hands on a pair to unbox for you guys. The way the lines go, the way that double stack zoom looks, I just think the ISPA team did a really great job of bringing all of those different sports and activities together to one design to make it appealing to the audience and to sneakerheads like me. So as I just mentioned, the Zoom Road Warrior is going to release on July 10th, but you can also get the Overreact. Those are going to release on July 9th. And then the Overreact Sandal, those are going to release on the 31st. And then you have Flow and the Drifter. Those are releasing in August and September. So those will come a little later. But for right now, the main one is going to be the Zoom Road Warrior and the Overreact, which are two of, I would say, the most daring and also the most innovative and the most comfortable looking shoes that they have in this new collection. Now there's also some apparel that's coming out in the collection as well, and just like the shoes, they employ that same sort of philosophy of thinking, how can you make products for the consumer that are just a little bit different and that reach into this pocket and reach into that pocket and combine those things, but still provide the consumer or the sneakerhead or the fashionista something that looks beyond the way they would usually use something and make it better in a way that only someone that is looking and grabbing pieces from all over the place could. So those are my thoughts about the Nike ISPA new announcement. It's really exciting to me. I would love to hear what you guys have to think. So if you want to share, go ahead and leave that information down below. As always, I'm Jacques Slade. Yeah, I think that's it when it comes to the ISPA. It was really exciting and very interesting. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you soon.